Now,
on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app.
O'Connor and Company.
It's 7:06. It's O'Connor and Company here on a Wednesday morning, the first day of May. Good Lord. What happened to the first 4 months of this year? It's insane. I'm getting old. It's all right. Coming up later this morning at 7:35, the Lieutenant Governor of Virginia, Winsome Sears. Early voting starts this week for the primaries. Also, find out what she thinks about these campus protests in Virginia. At 8:05, Congressman Michael Waltz of Florida wants to discuss the classified documents that Biden had. Oh, yeah, remember that story? I'm Larry O'Connor. Molly Hemingway is in for Julie Gunlock this morning. Molly, good morning.
Good morning. It's great to be here with you.
It's great to have you. It's been fun, and it will continue as well, especially with our good friend Governor Scott Walker, president of Young America's Foundation. Governor Walker, I'm sure you're shocked to see this kind of behavior on a college campus.
Yeah, it's amazing. Good morning, Larry. Good morning, Molly. It's good to be with you guys. It is amazing, but yet not surprising. It is outrageous.
Something tells me Young America's Foundation is sort of used to seeing images similar to this.
Well, and me personally, too. I mean,
sure.
I think of the 100,000 protesters we had, and, of course, we get this. The irony is, so our people, as you know, Larry, our students at Young America's Foundation will come in and get a permit, reserve a room, do all the things we're supposed to, and still the administration and the student body government will try and shut us down, even though we do everything by the books. In this case, they're largely doing nothing by the books. I pointed out at the University of Wisconsin-Madison that it's actually in the state law. The administrative code prohibits encampments that people stay overnight on any university campus. Those people should be arrested. I think for the ones doing damage, whether it's at Columbia, Harvard, or anywhere else, they should arrest them, remove them, and expel them. There has to be consequences.
You should be encouraged, though, by seeing certain levels of defiance. I point right back to your efforts and your organization's efforts at college campuses to offer an alternative idea and an alternative message. We see some pretty heroic students standing up to these protesters and trying to stand their ground. And several years ago, we wouldn't even see that. It was so one-sided. Or students were intimidated into silence to just hide in their dorm room.
Exactly. Yeah, no, in this case, there's no doubt about it. We reached out to that wonderful student at UCLA who stood up and confronted. I mean, these images are amazing, even by recent standards. That's what I've said. It's more than just left-leaning or liberal bias. It's the radicalization of our university campuses. But I think people decided enough is enough. They're going to push back. And we've got students and staff at Columbia, at George Washington University, at UCLA. We're going to push back anywhere and everywhere. And again, as you've heard me say before, if you're under attack, YAF's got your back. YAF.org, YAF.org. We'll help them out.
Governor Walker, isn't it interesting that so much of this campus activism has been targeting conservative students over the years, and people didn't really seem to care. And now we have these pro-Hamas situations happening on campuses, and people are finally waking up to it. But wouldn't it have been more helpful if they would have realized that their support, like even these donors who were giving money to the campuses, to these universities, up until quite recently, were fine with some of this same ideology when it was part of the BLM riots or other left-wing activist groups? Why are they just noticing now?
Oh, you're right. When Bill Ackman came out at Harvard, for example, we said, welcome to the party. You're a couple decades late, but we'll take it, right? We're not complaining. We'll take whatever help. And it is interesting. He's a good example of not only being upset about the obviously anti-Semitic, downright just out to get Jewish students and Jewish people approach that so many of these pro-Hamas folks are articulating. But he started to say, hey, I've noticed there's other things they do. And so it's rather eye-opening. And it's a good reminder, too, for any of the listeners out there, not only encouraging students through our group or other groups like ours, but if you give money to your alma mater, stop. If they don't support at a minimum an enforceable free speech policy, if they're not willing to protect students who have maybe a minority viewpoint on campus but not in society, if they're not willing at a minimum to protect Jewish students, I mean, imagine these scenes we've seen over the last few days. If these were black students, it would be equally as horrific, and obviously tragically in the history of our country have had scenes like that long before most people listening were even born. But But I just always say if it was one group versus another, why would we be outraged? But we're not now.
Well,
we should be
Governor
outraged in every
Walker,
one of these instances.
you pointed out that your groups are always following the rules for having speakers, and they get so much trouble. Is there a way that they could take advantage of this current moment? Meaning, could they set up encampments and start making a list of demands? For instance, having a certain percentage of professors not being far left activists, or demanding that they be treated with respect when they bring speakers on campus. Like maybe it's time to test the consistency of these administrations in this environment.
I like it.
Oh, there's no doubt about it. So one of the things we've done for the last 2 decades is put up one American flag on campuses all across the country for every innocent life that was lost on 9/11. And first, it was very obvious, Republicans, Democrats across the board were for it. The last few years, amazingly, Larry knows this, there's been some blowback, which is outrageous. But we did a similar thing since October 7th, providing 1,200 Israeli flags for all the lives that were lost on that day. And we, the other day, actually gave the flags and helped put out the flags on the campus of Columbia, just as a pushback to say, hey, we're not backing down. Similarly with UCLA, we've got Robert Spencer coming in, the head of the founder of Jihad Watch, to talk about what exactly is happening with Hamas and how outrageous it is that these kids would be aligned with them. Well, the administration, not surprisingly, said, well, we're a little concerned about what's happening. It was like, no, we have a permit. We're going to be there. We don't care. The bottom line is we're going to help push on all these campuses and say now is the time to step up, not just to push back for conservative causes, but particularly to counter the outrageousness of these protesters, not just because they're not following the rules, but because of what they're standing for. It's just completely out of whack with reality.
We're speaking with Governor Scott Walker, president of Young America's Foundation. And if you could put your Wisconsin hat on, not that you ever take it off, it's a cheese head. He wears it all the time. It's very embarrassing. President Trump has
you want to talk about the Packers season?
No, let's not. President Trump has the day off from his trial, and he's going straight to your state, Wisconsin, for a rally. First of all, what do you think the landscape is politically right now in Wisconsin, as the polls look pretty good for President Trump this early on? But secondly, and more importantly, I think, the significance of where he's going, Waukesha. You've talked about it a lot. Waukesha is an important part of Wisconsin when you're looking to win that state.
Well, there's no doubt about it. It's where my home is. He's actually going to be a few blocks from my home. He was in Green Bay a few weeks ago the last time. So the fact that he's coming back is a great sign, because you remember 8 years ago, Hillary Clinton, after she lost the primary to Bernie Sanders, never came back to Wisconsin or Michigan again. And obviously those were two critical states, what they then called the blue wall.
Mm-hmm.
That wall came down and Donald Trump was elected the 45th president of the United States. I think his coming back sends a powerful message to suburban voters, some of whom walked away 4 years ago, that, hey, I think there's a lot of voters I hear from who say they could handle a little bit of political instability in return for some economic and public safety security when it comes to high prices, border security, and just public safety overall.
Do you think Wisconsin's going to be possibly one of the most frequently visited states between now and Election Day, and it's going to go down to the wire?
Yeah, there's no doubt. With Trump in Wisconsin today, with Biden just recently there, with Kamala Harris, although, again, if I was their camp, I might figure out ways to not have them come to Wisconsin on the other side, because I think they actually lose votes, particularly with Harris. But I think with President Trump and whomever eventually he picks as his running mate, they're going to be there often because, again, he won by winning Wisconsin in 2016. In 2020, he lost just barely 23,000 votes out of nearly 6 million people. Right now, in any number of reliable polls, he is ahead, but it's within a point or two. I've always said when I ran and won successfully 3 times statewide in Wisconsin, you have to win by typically 3 to 4 to 5 points to make up for the problems you see in places like Milwaukee and Madison, and we've seen that in the past since then. Yeah. Problems, yeah.
Problems is a great euphemism. All right. Governor Walker, we're going to leave it there, but I've said it before, you're going to be somebody we're going to be drawing on quite a bit this year, this election year, and anytime, because you've got great insights. And by the way, Milwaukee is also the site of the Republican National Convention. So, yeah, it's all about Wisconsin right up until football season starts, and then you guys just disappear. Thanks, Governor.
Good to talk to you, Larry. Have a great one.